Good day, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Safari Mack Explores Australia. I'm Safari Mack, your guide and host, helping you make connections to the wild. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we are finally crawling out of the water of the Pacific Ocean and leaving behind the Great Barrier Reef and making our way towards mainland Australia. So we begin our adventure up in the northeastern part of Australia that's known as Queensland, where today, and basically along the northern part of Australia, we're going to begin our trek across the land down under by meeting some of the most famous, scariest, and most potentially dangerous animals ever to call the land down under home. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the saltwater crocodile, otherwise known by their Latin name of Crocodilus porosus. So get your insurance up to par, make sure you sign those liability waivers, because there's a good chance that we're going to go to the emergency room from these guys. But before we begin, if you're new to my channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Check out my Facebook page for content on conservation. And if you have a question or if there's an animal that you want me to do in the future, all you got to do is just send me an email, which you will always find the link to down in my description below. But if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get started. We'll begin off, as always, with its evolution and its family. Now, this isn't the first kind of crocodile-like animal that we've met before. Who remembers the American alligator? So, obviously, the saltwater crocodile belongs to a group of reptiles that are known as the crocodilians, which includes true crocodiles, alligators, gharials, which are those with the very long extended snout, think of it like somewhat of a sword. And then finally, the false crocodiles that are more commonly known to you and me as caimans. Now, for today's episode, because back in the American alligator, we already covered the evolution of crocodilians as a whole with their time on the planet. So I'm going to skip that part today. And if you do want to learn for yourself how crocodilians came to be and some other famous extinct species, I encourage you to go check out part 1 of the American alligator, and then you can come on back. And if you need to look for it, I will leave you the American alligator part 1 link down in my description below next to my email address. But let's get back to it. So the land down under is actually thought to be the place where most modern day crocodiles had evolved. So they've left Australia, and as millions of years time passed and conditions changed and habitats came and went, they would manage to make their way across the world, at least the crocodilian family. Now, let's get back to the saltwater crocodiles and their habitat, lifestyle, and their reproduction. So Australia really isn't just the only place that you can find saltwater crocodiles. They're actually pretty common in different parts of Southeast Asia, and their closest living cousin is thought to be the Siamese crocodile and the mugger crocodile that is more commonly found in the land of India. But let's get back to Australia. So in the Northern Territory, as well as Western Australia, they're found in from Broome, Western Australia, all throughout the the Northern Territory, and down to Rockhampton, Queensland. But the rivers, such as the Darley River, the Adelaide River, and the Mary River, that's where you can find a lot of crocodiles. In fact, it's estimated that there are said to be about 100,000 to 200,000 saltwater crocodiles living in Australia today. So right here, from Western Australia through the Northern Territory, all the way into Queensland. Now, let's get an idea about how big these animals are. The saltwater crocodile is currently the largest living crocodile that on the planet today. So here's an idea of how big they really are. A male saltwater crocodile is always bigger than the females, at least around 23 feet long, or 7 meters, while the females are generally smaller, around 10 feet long, or 3 meters long. Now, the males are highly territorial animals. They do not tolerate one another. They will fight to the death to keep their territory safe from other imposing males or from other animals, which unfortunately, due to this highly aggressive nature, this has unfortunately been given their This is why attacks on humans have occurred because of their highly aggressive nature. Females are not quite as aggressive, and usually, while they should be viewed as dangerous or we need to tread with caution, these animals are generally preferred to share territories than to have to fight with one another. So, in terms of their habitat, wherever they basically, as the name implies, they're able to tolerate salt water pretty well thanks to special adaptations that enable them to survive. But they can be found in rivers, estuaries, billabongs, where there's plenty of water and plenty of land, and of course plenty of prey. The saltwater crocodile can easily make different spots its home. Now let's get into their breeding cycle. So the male and females usually both work together in terms of raising offspring. So after courtship, which usually would take place during September and October, from November to March, crocodile nests are being made. So the female usually finds the area, and then the male also kind of helps participate in defending the territory for the female to lay her nest. She can have anywhere from 40 to 60 eggs, though 90 eggs have been found in some nests, or one was found that contained the most on record. Now, despite being a very good mother and being highly territorial of her defensive of her young, unfortunately, when the crocodile eggs hatch, they have a high mortality rate. In fact, it's said that 1% of all crocodile hatchlings will ever make it to adulthood, which it seems harsh, but it's just enough for the species to continue. So when the crocodile eggs actually do begin to hatch, they start making a kind of yelping sound, like a which alerts mama that she needs to come over, pick up her hatchlings by her mouth, and then gently take them over to the water where she begins teaching them a little bit about adulthood. But now, by the time that they are 8 months old, they usually leave their mothers and leave each other to go to live on their own. They won't begin establishing territories until they're at least 2.5 years old. So hopefully if they make it, they'll become one of Australia's top apex predators in all of the land. Now let's get into their diet and hunting. Of course, like all crocodiles, these guys are ambush predators, and they're really not fastidious about what they're going to find in food. Whatever they can find, they'll eat. Usually they'll go for fish, but they are also known to go after wallabies, feral species such as feral hogs and even water buffalo, and other native Australian wildlife like this goanna lizard, a kind of monitor. And of course, unfortunately, because humans are consistently moving into different parts of Australia and making their own way in life, in this case, ranchers, unfortunately, livestock can also be their food choice. Now, it's not really, it's not that they want to, they just, whenever there's an opportunity to hunt, they will go for it. Of course, they're not going to be eating all the time. Remember, a reptile can go for a very long time before they need to eat again. But of course, as hatchlings, they start off with insects and smaller animals, and then as they get older, they graduate onto the larger prey. We'll end today's Part 1 episode with their influence in human culture. Now, in many of the Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander cultures of northern Australia, the saltwater crocodile actually holds a very significant place in their cultural and spiritual places, which they're often seen as like totem figures, symbols of power, even ancestral beings, which with stories that reflect upon their importance as well as some of the family's pasts. So the Aboriginals believe that the saltwater crocodile is like a totem animal, and believe that some of their ancestors are actually within the crocodiles, not being digested, but their spirit lives within the crocodiles. Of course, they're also seen as cunning. They have primal strength and their predatory nature, thanks to their ability to survive in very harsh environments. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's unfortunately all the time that I have for today's Part 1 episode, but I would like you to join me for tomorrow at Sunday for a Safari Mack Conservation Conversation special. But until then, this is Safari Mack. I'll see you all out there.